The negotiations lasted 7 days. Danny worked from morning until late at night, sitting across the table from Velthari diplomats. They argued about borders. They debated prisoner exchanges. They fought over trade routes and resource rights and 100 other details that seemed small but mattered deeply. It was exhausting work. Every word had to be chosen carefully. Every sentence could make or break the fragile agreement. Danny drank endless cups of bitter Velthari tea and learned to survive on 3 hours of sleep. But slowly, painfully, a treaty began to take shape. The United Earth Coalition sent representatives to join the talks. Commander Hartwell arrived on the 3rd day, along with a team of lawyers and advisors. She looked at Danny with new respect. "I do not know how you did it," she said. "But whatever you did, keep doing it." Danny smiled tiredly. "I just told them the truth." The Velthari were difficult negotiators. They argued every point and demanded concessions for every compromise. General Kreth was the hardest to convince. He questioned every clause and challenged every assumption. But Danny noticed something interesting. Whenever the talks seemed ready to collapse, Kreth would glance at the Queen, and every time she would give a small nod. Then Kreth would grumble and curse, but he would accept the deal. Danny realized that Kreth was not trying to sabotage the peace. He was testing it. He wanted to make sure the agreement was strong enough to survive. On the 5th day, they reached the most difficult topic. Kethros Station. The Velthari wanted acknowledgement of what had happened there. They wanted humanity to admit responsibility for the 12,000 deaths. The human negotiators refused. They said it would open the door to endless demands for compensation. The talks nearly fell apart. Danny asked for a private meeting with Queen Sithara. They met in her personal chamber, just the two of them, surrounded by silence. "My people will not admit fault for Kethros," Danny said. "They believe it was a legitimate military action. They will not apologize. And my people will not forget," the Queen replied. "They will always remember the fire. They will always carry the grief." Danny was quiet for a moment. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out Kevin's lucky coin. "Do you know what this is?" he asked. The Queen examined it with her antennae. "A small metal disc. It seems old. It belonged to my friend's grandfather. He carried it through the Earth Wars, a terrible conflict that killed millions of my people. He said it brought him luck." Danny turned the coin over in his hands. But the real luck was not in the coin. It was in what it represented. Hope. The belief that tomorrow could be better than today. The faith that even in the darkest times, light would come again. He looked up at the Queen. "My people cannot apologize for Kethros because they do not believe they were wrong. Your people cannot forgive because the pain is too deep. But maybe there is another way. What do you suggest? We cannot change the past. We cannot bring back the dead. But we can build a future where Kethros never happens again. We can create something that honors those who died by making sure their children never have to die the same way." The Queen considered this for a long moment. "You are asking us to accept peace without justice." I'm asking you to accept peace instead of justice. Justice is a word we use to make revenge sound noble. It does not heal. It does not restore. It only continues the cycle." Danny stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see the stars stretching into infinity. Somewhere out there, your grandchildren are growing up. 200 lives that exist because of one moment of mercy. If I had been more focused on justice that night, if I had ignored the transport ship and concentrated on saving human lives, they would all be dead. He turned back to the Queen. "That is what peace looks like. Not fairness, not balance. Just people choosing mercy over justice. Again and again until the killing stops." The Queen was silent for a long time. When she spoke, her voice was soft. You are a strange creature. Danny Cole, you speak words that should make me angry, but instead they make me hope. She rose from her seat and moved toward him. I will accept your proposal. We will not speak of Kethros in the treaty. Instead, we will build a monument together. A place where both species can remember and grieve. A place where our children can learn about the cost of war. Danny felt tears welling in his eyes. Thank you. Do not thank me. Thank your own strange heart. It seems to understand things that my people have forgotten. The final treaty was signed on the 7th day. Danny stood in the throne room, surrounded by thousands of Volturi and dozens of human officials. The chamber that had once felt like a death trap now felt like a place of hope. Queen Sithara pressed her mark into the organic paper. Commander Hartwell signed her name beside it. The war was officially over. The crowd was silent. This was not a celebration. There was too much grief for that. But there was something else in the air. A sense of possibility. A feeling that maybe, just maybe, things could be different now. After the ceremony, the Queen summoned Danny to her private chamber one last time. You will leave soon, she said. Return to your people. But before you go, I have something for you. She reached behind her throne and pulled out a small crystalline object. It was about the size of Danny's fist, smooth and clear, with faint patterns swirling inside. This is a memory stone, the Queen explained. We use them to record important moments, births, deaths, triumphs. This one contains my daughter's recording of the rescue. Her voice, the sounds of the eggs, your words guiding her through the fire. Danny took the stone carefully. It was warm in his hands. I want you to have it, the Queen said. So you will always remember what you did. So you will always know that even in the darkest night, your voice carried hope. Danny could not speak. His throat was too tight. He simply nodded and pressed the stone to his heart. One more thing, the Queen said. She moved closer, her massive form casting a shadow over him. My daughter wants to meet you. She has wanted to meet you for 3 years. She says she owes you her life and the lives of her children. I would be honored, Danny managed to say. I thought you might say that. The Queen made a sound that might have been a laugh. You humans are so sentimental. It is annoying and somehow endearing at the same time. Danny smiled through his tears. We try our best. He returned to the Resolute that evening. Kevin was waiting at the dock, his face stretched in a wide grin. You did it, Kevin said, pulling Danny into a tight hug. You actually did it. We did it, Danny corrected. All of us, together. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the lucky coin. I believe this belongs to you. Kevin took the coin and examined it. It looks different somehow, brighter. Maybe it is, Danny said. Maybe luck is like that. It grows when you share it. They walked together through the corridors of the Resolute. The crew members they passed smiled and nodded. Word had spread quickly. Danny Cole, the rescue pilot from Kethros, had ended the war. But Danny did not feel like a hero. He felt tired and sad and strangely hopeful. He had done something good, something that mattered. But he knew the hard work was just beginning. Peace was fragile. It needed care and attention. It needed people who believed in it, who fought for it, who refused to let it die. Danny looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, Volturi children were hatching. Human children were playing. Two species that had tried to destroy each other were now trying to live together. It would not be easy. There would be setbacks and failures and moments of despair. But for the first time in 3 years, Danny believed it was possible. He thought about his own future. Maybe he would have children someday. Maybe he would tell them this story. The story of how one night, in the middle of a terrible battle, he had spoken kindness into the darkness. And how that small act of mercy had changed everything. Resolute turned toward home. The stars welcomed them with their ancient light. Behind them, the Velthary flagship began its own journey. Two ships, once enemies, now traveling under the same sky. Danny closed his eyes and smiled. Peace was possible. He had proven that now it was up to everyone else to keep it alive. The council chamber was smaller than the throne room, but it felt more dangerous. Here, the most powerful Velthary in the Empire had gathered. Generals who had burned human worlds. Advisors who had planned the deaths of millions. Warriors who had fought on the front lines. And they were all staring at Danny with pure hatred. Queen Sithara sat at the head of a long table made of polished black material. Danny stood at the opposite end, surrounded by guards. The council members filled the seats between them, their compound eyes gleaming in the low light. General Kreth was the first to speak. He was old and scarred, with one antenna missing and deep gouges across his exoskeleton. He had fought in every major battle of the war. "This is madness," Kreth said. His voice was harsh and cold. "You bring a human into our sacred chambers. You speak of peace while our dead cry out for vengeance. Have you lost your mind, my queen?" The other council members clicked their mandibles in agreement. "One act of mercy changes nothing," Kreth continued. "This creature is still our enemy. His species still destroyed Kethros. They still killed 12,000 of our children. We should execute him and send his body back to Earth as our answer." "I agree," said another council member, a female named Vessa. She was young and fierce, with bright markings on her shell. "Peace is weakness. The humans will see it as surrender. They will think we are afraid." "They are vermin," added a third voice. "They spread across the galaxy like a disease. They take what they want and destroy what they cannot use. We should wipe them out while we still can." The chamber filled with angry voices. Danny stood quietly, listening to them call for his death. He understood their anger. He had seen what war did to people. It turned pain into hatred, and hatred into violence. Queen Sithara let them speak. She watched and listened, her expression impossible to read. Finally, General Kreth turned to Danny directly. "Do you have anything to say, human? Any last words before we decide your fate?" Danny looked around the chamber. Every face was hostile. Every eye wanted him dead. But he had faced worse odds before. "May I speak freely?" he asked. The queen nodded. Danny stepped forward. His voice was calm and steady, just like it had been 3 years ago when he guided a frightened Velthary mother through a field of fire. "I understand your anger," he began. "I truly do. War takes everything from us. It takes our friends, our families, our hope. It leaves nothing behind but pain and the desire for revenge." He looked at General Kreth. "You have lost soldiers, brothers and sisters who fought beside you. You watched them die, and you carry that weight every day. I know because I carry the same weight. I have held dying friends in my arms. I have listened to their last words. I have buried people I loved." The chamber was quiet now. They were listening. "You think killing me will make you feel better," Danny continued. "You think revenge will ease your pain. But it will not. I have seen what revenge does. It does not end the suffering. It only creates more." He turned to Vessa. "You say peace is weakness. But is it weak to admit that you are tired? Is it weak to want something better for your children?" "I think it takes more strength to stop fighting than to keep going. Any fool can pull a trigger. It takes courage to put the weapon down." Vessa said nothing, but her antennae twitched. Danny looked at the entire council. "I'm not here because I think humanity is innocent. We have done terrible things in this war. We have burned your colonies. We have killed your people. We have made choices that shame me deeply." He took a deep breath. "But you have done the same. You have destroyed our cities. You have slaughtered our civilians. You have taught us to fear the stars." General Kreth leaned forward. So we are even? Is that your argument? No, Danny said. We are not even. There is no such thing as even in war. There is no balance sheet that can measure the lives we have taken from each other. The dead do not care about fairness. They are simply gone. He looked at Queen Sithara. My argument is that we have a choice. We can keep killing each other until one side is destroyed. We can fight until the last ship burns and the last soldier falls. We can fill the universe with graves and call it victory. He paused. Or we can choose something different. We can decide that enough blood has been spilled. We can build something new. Something our children will not have to die for. The chamber was silent. Danny could hear his own heartbeat. 3 years ago, I made a choice. I heard your daughter calling for help, and I answered. I did not ask if she was my enemy. I did not check if saving her would benefit humanity. I simply heard someone who needed help, and I helped. He spread his hands. That is all I am asking you to do now. Here's someone who needs help. Your people are tired. My people are tired. We are all dying for a war that nobody remembers starting. Let us stop. Let us help each other instead. General Kreth stood up slowly. His scarred face was hard to read. Pretty words, he said. But words do not bring back the dead. Words do not rebuild our colonies. Words do not heal the wounds your people have caused. No, Danny agreed. But words can stop us from making more wounds. Words can prevent more death. Words can build bridges where there were only walls. Kreth stared at Danny for a long moment. Then he turned to the Queen. I do not trust him. I do not trust any human. But I am tired of burying young soldiers. I am tired of sending death notices to families. If there is a chance, even a small one, that this war can end without more blood, then I am willing to listen. The chamber stirred. This was unexpected. Kreth was known as a hardliner, a warrior who never backed down. Vesa spoke next. I still believe peace is dangerous. But I also know that my children are growing up in fear. They have never known a sky without warships. Perhaps they deserve a chance at something better. One by one, the council members spoke. Some were hostile. Some were doubtful. But many were tired. Many were ready for the killing to stop. Finally, Queen Sithara rose from her seat. I have heard your arguments, she said. All of them. And I have made my decision. The chamber held its breath. This human walked into the heart of our empire, alone and unarmed. He knew he might die. He came anyway because he believed peace was worth the risk. She looked at Danny with something that might have been respect. 3 years ago, he saved my bloodline when he had nothing to gain. He showed mercy to my daughter when she was helpless. He acted with honor when honor was forgotten. She turned to the council. I have spent 3 years dreaming of revenge. I have imagined burning human worlds and watching their species suffer. But revenge will not bring back our dead. It will only create more corpses. Her voice grew stronger. I am old. I have ruled for 400 years. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have learned that the greatest victories are not won with weapons. They are won with wisdom. She raised one limb. I choose peace. I choose to end this war. I choose to give our children a future. The chamber erupted in voices, some angry, some relieved. But the Queen had spoken. Her word was law. Danny closed his eyes and let out a breath he had been holding for 3 years. It was not over yet. But for the first time, peace seemed possible. The throne room exploded into chaos. Guards surrounded Danny with their blades raised. Advisors shouted at each other in rapid clicking sounds. Generals pushed forward, demanding blood. The crowd of thousands pressed closer, their voices rising into a terrible hiss. But Queen Sithara stood still in the middle of the storm. Her eyes never left Danny. "Silence," she commanded. The room went quiet. Not slowly, but instantly. Every voice stopped. Every movement froze. The power of the Queen was absolute. "I will have the full story," Sithara said. "I will understand what happened at Kethros. And then I will decide what to do with this human." She gestured with one limb. "Bring him to my private chamber. Postguards at every entrance. He will not leave until I am satisfied." 2 guards grabbed Danny by the arms and dragged him through a side door. He did not resist. There was no point. He was deep inside an alien ship, surrounded by enemies, with no weapon and no way to escape. They took him through narrow corridors that pulsed with soft light. The walls were warm and seemed to breathe. Finally, they reached a small room, round and dark, with cushioned surfaces along the walls. The guards pushed Danny inside and took positions by the door. A few minutes later, Queen Sithara entered. She moved slowly, her massive body filling most of the space. The door sealed behind her. They were alone. "Sit," the Queen said, pointing to one of the cushioned surfaces. Danny sat. His legs were weak, and he was grateful for the support. The Queen settled herself across from him. In the dim light, she looked older somehow, more tired. The hard lines of her exoskeleton seemed softer. "Tell me everything," she said. "Start at the beginning. I want to know what happened at Kethros, the human version." Danny took a deep breath. He had never told this story to anyone. He had buried it deep inside himself, locked it away with all the other painful memories of the war. But now, sitting before the alien Queen, he knew he had to speak. "I was a rescue pilot back then," he began. "My job was to find survivors after battles, pull them out of wrecked ships, get them to safety. It was dangerous work, but I was good at it." The Queen listened without interrupting. Kethros Station was supposed to be a quick mission. Our forces had won a battle nearby, and we were sent to check for survivors. But when we arrived, everything went wrong. Danny closed his eyes. The memories came flooding back. The fire, the screening, the endless darkness. The Valkyrie had reinforcements. They came out of nowhere. Suddenly, we were in the middle of a full-scale battle. Ships exploding everywhere. People dying. It was chaos. "I remember," the Queen said quietly. "I sent those reinforcements myself. I thought we could catch your forces off guard." "You did," Danny said. "We lost a lot of good people that day. So did we." They sat in silence for a moment. 2 enemies, sharing a memory of blood and fire. "My shuttle was hit," Danny continued. "I lost my main engines. I was drifting through the debris, trying to stay alive. That is when I picked up the signal." "The transport ship," the Queen said. Danny nodded. "It came through on the emergency channel." A Valkyrie voice, speaking in broken human words. They were asking for help. They were lost in the debris field. They could not find a way out. "My daughter," the Queen said. "She had learned your language from captured transmissions. She thought it might help her escape. I did not know who she was at the time. I did not know the ship was carrying eggs. All I knew was that someone needed help." Danny looked at his hands. They were shaking slightly. "I should have ignored the signal. My people were dying. I should have focused on saving them." But I could hear the fear in her voice. She was not a soldier. She was scared and lost and trying to protect something precious. "So you helped her," the Queen said. "I helped her. I opened my radio and talked her through the debris field. I told her which way to go. I warned her about the dangerous spots. I stayed on the channel for 20 minutes, guiding her to safety." Danny looked up at the Queen. "My commander was furious. He screamed at me to stop. He said I was wasting time on the enemy while our own people died. He was right, in a way. I could have saved more human lives if I had focused on them instead. Then, why did you not stop? The Queen asked. Danny was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft. Because I heard the eggs. In the background, behind your daughter's voice, I could hear them. They were making soft sounds. Little chirping noises. They sounded like baby birds. The Queen's antennae twitched. I grew up on a farm, Danny said. We raised chickens. Every spring, we would have new chicks. I spent hours watching them hatch, listening to them chirp. It was the most peaceful sound in the world. He looked at the Queen with wet eyes. When I heard those sounds coming from the transport ship, I could not ignore them. I could not let them die. They were just babies. They had not chosen this war. They had not hurt anyone. They were innocent. The chamber was silent, except for the soft hum of the ship. My daughter told me about you, the Queen said finally. She said a strange creature spoke to her in the darkness. She said his voice was calm and kind. She said he called her little ones and told her everything would be okay. I did not know if she would survive, Danny admitted. The debris field was dangerous. One wrong turn and she would have been destroyed. But I tried. I tried to give her a chance. She survived, the Queen said. She made it to safe space. She carried my grandchildren to our homeworld. They hatched 3 months later. 200 healthy larvae. Danny felt something loosen in his chest. A weight he had carried for 3 years suddenly felt lighter. I never knew, he whispered. I always wondered, but I never knew. The Queen rose from her seat and moved closer to Danny. Her massive form blocked out the light. For 3 years I have searched for you, she said. I listened to that recording over and over. I memorized every word. I told myself that if I ever found the human with that voice, I would kill him slowly. I would make him suffer for all the pain his species has caused. Danny looked up at her without fear. And now? He asked. The Queen was silent for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was strange. It cracked and wavered in a way Danny had never heard from a Velthari. Now, I do not know what to feel. You saved my bloodline. You showed mercy when you had no reason to. You acted with honor while your own people called you a traitor. She reached down and touched Danny's shoulder with one delicate limb. The touch was gentle, almost tender. Perhaps, she said slowly, there is more to your species than I believed. Perhaps peace is possible after all. Danny felt tears running down his face. He did not try to stop them. Thank you, he said. Thank you for listening. The Queen straightened and moved toward the door. Do not thank me yet, she said. The Council will not accept this easily. They want blood. They want revenge. Convincing them will be difficult. But you will try? Danny asked. The Queen paused at the door. Yes, she said. For the first time in 3 years, I will try. She left the chamber. Danny sat alone in the darkness, holding Kevin's lucky coin in his hand. Maybe, he thought, there was hope after all. The shuttle landed with a soft thump. Danny sat in the cockpit for a moment, staring at the dark walls of the docking bay. Strange lights pulsed along the surface, green and blue and colors he could not name. The air outside was different. He could feel it even through the hull. He unstrapped himself and stood up. His legs were shaking slightly. He took a deep breath and forced himself to be calm. He had faced danger before. He had flown through asteroid fields and enemy fire. He could do this. The shuttle door opened with a hiss. Danny stepped out onto the deck. The smell hit him first. It was sharp and organic, like wet earth and something chemical. The floor beneath his feet was not metal. It was something else, something that felt almost alive. The walls curved around him like the inside of a shell. 4 Valkyrie guards were waiting for him. They were tall, nearly 7 feet, with hard black exoskeletons and compound eyes that reflected the dim light. Their limbs ended in sharp blades that could cut through armor. They did not speak. They simply stared. Danny raised his hand slowly to show he was unarmed. "I am Danny Cole. I am here to meet with Queen Sithara." One of the guards clicked its mandibles. The sound was harsh and alien. Then it turned and began walking down the corridor. The others surrounded Danny and pushed him forward. They walked for a long time. The corridors twisted and turned like tunnels in a hive. Danny tried to memorize the path, but it was impossible. Everything looked the same. The walls pulsed with faint light. Strange sounds echoed in the distance. He saw other Valkyrie as they walked. Workers with smaller bodies and softer shells. Soldiers with weapons built into their limbs. They all stopped and stared as Danny passed. He could feel their hatred. To them, he was the enemy. He was the creature that had killed their brothers and sisters. Danny kept walking. He did not look away. He would not show fear. Finally, they reached a massive door. It was made of the same organic material as the walls, but it was covered with patterns and symbols. Danny recognized some of them from his studies. They were marks of royalty, marks of power. The door opened slowly. Beyond it was the throne room. Danny had seen pictures. He had read reports. Nothing had prepared him for this. The chamber was enormous. It stretched upward into darkness, the ceiling lost in shadow. Thousands of Valkyrie filled the space, standing on platforms and ledges that rose along the walls. They were silent, watching. The air was thick with their presence. At the far end of the room, on a throne made of living tissue, sat Queen Sithara. She was bigger than Danny had imagined. Her body was nearly 30 feet long, segmented and powerful. Her exoskeleton was deep black, but it shimmered with hints of purple and gold. Her head was crowned with long antennae that moved slowly, sensing the air. Her eyes were huge and dark and filled with ancient intelligence. Danny walked toward her. His footsteps echoed in the silence. He could feel thousands of eyes watching him. He could hear the soft clicking of mandibles all around. He stopped at the base of the throne and bowed his head. "Your Majesty," he said. His voice was calm and steady. The translator device on his chest hummed softly, converting his words into the clicking language of the Valkyrie. "I come on behalf of the United Earth Coalition. We seek an end to this war. We seek peace." The chamber was silent. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Then Queen Sithara shifted on her throne. Her massive body creaked and groaned as she leaned forward. Her antennae pointed directly at Danny, quivering slightly. "Peace," she said. Her voice was deep and resonant, translated through speakers into human speech. "You speak of peace while my children lie dead across a dozen worlds." "I know," Danny said. "And human children lie dead as well. This war has cost us both more than we can count. That is why I am here. To find another way." The Queen was silent for a long moment. Her compound eyes studied Danny with an intensity that made his skin crawl. He felt like an insect under a microscope. Then something changed. The Queen went rigid. Every limb froze in place. Her antennae stopped moving. Her eyes fixed on Danny with a focus that was almost painful. The guards shifted nervously. The crowd murmured. Something was wrong. "That voice," the Queen whispered. Her translator crackled with static. "I know that voice." Danny felt his blood run cold. "Your Majesty, I do not understand." Silence. The Queen rose from her throne. Her massive form unfolded, towering over Danny like a mountain. The ground shook with her movement. "Do not speak. Let me hear you again." Danny swallowed hard. His heart was pounding. "I am just a diplomat. I have never met you before." "No," the Queen said slowly. We have not met, but I have heard your voice. 3 years ago, at Kethros, the chamber erupted. Hissing voices filled the air. Guards surged forward, their bladed limbs raised. Danny took a step back, his hands up. Kethros, someone shouted. He was at Kethros. Kill him, another voice demanded. Kill the murderer. But Queen Sithara raised one massive limb, and the chamber fell silent instantly. No one will touch him, she commanded. Her voice echoed through the room like thunder. Not until I have answers. She lowered herself until her face was close to Danny. Her mandibles were inches from his head. He could smell her breath, hot and strange. 3 years ago, she said quietly, Kethros Station was destroyed. Over 12,000 of my children died in the fire. Soldiers, workers, larvae, all burned. Danny said nothing. He remembered the fire. He remembered the screaming. But before the end, the Queen continued. One voice came through our emergency channels. A human voice. It spoke to a transport ship that was trying to escape. It guided them through the debris. It told them where to go. It called them little ones. Danny's stomach dropped. He felt the world tilt beneath his feet. That transport ship carried my daughter, the Queen said. She was protecting 200 eggs. My grandchildren. The next generation of my bloodline. The chamber was utterly silent. Every Veltari was staring at Danny. I have listened to that recording 1,000 times, the Queen said. I have memorized every word, every tone, every breath. She leaned even closer. Her eyes filled Danny's vision. That voice was yours. Danny could not speak. His throat was tight. His hands were shaking. The Queen straightened slowly. She looked down at him with an expression he could not read. Tell me, human, why did you help them? Why did you save my daughter when your own people were dying? Danny took a deep breath. The entire room was waiting for his answer. Because they were children, he said finally. Because war should not kill children. Because I can help, and so I did. The Queen was silent for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was different, softer, almost broken. I have spent 3 years hating your species. I have dreamed of burning your worlds and scattering your ashes across the void. But I have also wondered. I have wondered who the human was. The one who spoke kindness into the darkness when he had no reason to. She looked at Danny with something that might have been wonder. Or perhaps it was simply confusion. And now you stand before me, asking for peace. Danny nodded slowly. Yes, your majesty. I am. The Queen turned to her council. The generals and advisors were watching with shock and anger on their faces. This changes everything, she said. The war had gone on for too long. 18 months of fire and death across the stars had left both sides tired and broken. Humanity had lost dozens of ships and thousands of soldiers. The Veltari Dominion had lost even more. Now, finally, both sides had agreed to talk. Danny Cole stood in the briefing room of the starship Resolute, listening to Commander Lisa Hartwell explain the mission. He was 34 years old, with short brown hair and tired eyes that had seen too much. He wore the simple gray uniform of a diplomatic envoy, but his hand still remembered the controls of a rescue shuttle. The Veltari have agreed to meet, Commander Hartwell said. She was a tall woman with silver hair and a voice that commanded attention. They want to discuss peace terms. This is the first time in 18 months that they have been willing to talk. Danny looked around the room. There were military officers, diplomats, and advisors. They all looked nervous. Nobody trusted the Veltari. Nobody knew what to expect. The meeting will take place on their flagship, Hartwell continued. You will go alone, Danny. That was their demand. One human. No weapons. No guards. A murmur went through the room. Going alone into the heart of the enemy fleet was dangerous. It might even be suicide. Why him? Asked one of the officers. No offense, Cole, but you are not exactly a senior diplomat. Danny said nothing. He wondered the same thing. Danny has a gift for languages, Hartwell explained. He learned the Velthari tongue faster than anyone in our program. He also has experience under pressure. He served as a rescue pilot during the early days of the war. The officer nodded slowly. That seemed to satisfy him, but Danny knew there was more to it. He had been at Kethros Station 3 years ago. He had seen things there that still haunted his dreams. The battle had been classified, buried deep in military files. Nobody talked about it anymore. Dawn after the briefing, Danny walked through the corridors of the Resolute. The ship hummed with quiet energy. Crew members passed him with quick nods. Everyone knew about the mission. Everyone knew that Danny might not come back. He found his old friend Kevin Marsh waiting near the shuttle bay. Kevin was a mechanic, a big man with grease-stained hands and a worried face. They had known each other since flight school. You sure about this? Kevin asked. He leaned against the wall with his arms crossed. Danny shrugged. Someone has to try. It does not have to be you. Maybe it does. Danny looked at the shuttle that would carry him to the Velthari ship. It was small and unarmed. A metal coffin with engines. We cannot keep fighting forever, Kevin. We are running out of ships. Running out of people. If there is even a small chance for peace, I have to take it. Kevin shook his head. The Velthari do not forgive. They do not forget. You know what they did at Colony 7. You know what they are capable of. I also know what we are capable of, Danny said quietly. We have done terrible things too. This war has made monsters of everyone. Kevin was silent for a moment. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small metal coin. It was old and worn, with strange markings on both sides. My grandfather gave me this, Kevin said. He said it brought him luck during the Earth Wars. I want you to have it. Danny took the coin. It was warm from Kevin's pocket. I cannot take this. You can give it back when you return. Kevin forced a smile. Just make sure you return. Danny put the coin in his pocket. Thank you. They shook hands, and then Kevin walked away. Danny watched him go. He wondered if he would ever see his friend again. An hour later, Danny climbed into the shuttle. The cockpit was small and cramped. He strapped himself into the pilot's seat and ran through the startup sequence. The engines hummed to life. Shuttle 7, you are cleared for launch, said the voice of the flight controller. Copy that, Danny replied. Beginning departure sequence. The shuttle lifted off the deck and glided through the force field into open space. The Resolute grew smaller behind him. Ahead, the stars stretched out in all directions. Danny set his course for the Velthari flagship. It was 3 hours away at normal speed. 3 hours to think. 3 hours to remember. He thought about Kethros Station. He thought about the fire and the screaming and the endless darkness of space. He thought about the voices on the radio, the desperate calls for help. He thought about the choice he had made that night. Nobody knew what he had done. The records were sealed. The survivors were scattered. Danny had never told anyone the full story, but sometimes, late at night, he still heard the voices. He still wondered if he had made the right choice. The shuttle flew on through the void. Danny watched the stars drift past the window. They were beautiful and cold and impossibly far away. He pulled out a datapad and reviewed his notes on Velthari culture. They were an insectoid species, with hard shells and compound eyes. They lived in hive structures and followed a strict hierarchy. At the top was the queen, an ancient being who had ruled for over 400 years. Queen Sathara. Danny had seen pictures of her. She was massive, nearly 30 feet long, with a segmented body and mandibles that could crush steel. She was said to be brilliant and ruthless. No human had ever met her in person, and live to tell about it. Danny was about to change that. Or die trying. He closed his eyes and tried to rest. Sleep did not come easily. His mind kept drifting back to Catharos, to the flames and the chaos. He remembered the Velthari transport ship, the desperate signal on the emergency channel. He remembered the sound of his own voice, calm and steady, guiding them through the debris. He had never found out if they survived. The shuttle's computer beeped softly. Danny opened his eyes. On the view screen, he could see the Velthari flagship emerging from the darkness. It was enormous, a twisted mass of black chitin and glowing lights. It looked like something alive, something that had grown rather than been built. Danny took a deep breath. His heart was pounding in his chest. "This is Human Shuttle 7, he said into the radio. "Requesting permission to dock." There was a long pause. Then a clicking voice came through the speaker. "Permission granted. Proceed to docking bay 4. The Queen awaits." Danny guided the shuttle toward the alien ship. As he approached, he could see Velthari fighters circling like insects around a hive. They did not attack. They simply watched. The docking bay opened like a mouth, dark and waiting. Danny flew inside. There was no turning back now.